celebrate the feast of the espousals, or basically the wedding marriage of Saint Joseph and Holy Mother Mary, and talk about an arranged marriage. Neither one of them wanted to get married, tradition tells us. Neither one of them, both of them were totally consecrated to God, totally immersed and absorbed in God, and now they're forced to marry each other, and of course they didn't choose each other. They it was chosen by lot. Those who were of the house of David came together, and that's how so they didn't even choose each other. God chose them entirely. A match made in heaven for sure, and they both embraced each other, not physically, but they accepted each other totally because it was the will of God, and that's what they were all about, the will of God, doing totally the will of God, and that's all they wanted. And they, of course, lived a virginal marriage, and they planned to be virgins before that anyway. They didn't plan to get married, so it wasn't a difficult transition. And so in marriage, they were still totally caught up in God. And so how did they treat each other? As God wanted them to. They loved each other. They loved each other, as much as human beings could love each other in that spiritual way. They loved each other in God, totally in God. Helped each other to love God more. So they both helped each other to love God because everything was God for them. Serving God, doing His will, pleasing Him. And so they were both helping each other to do that, to love God with all their heart, soul, and strength, not to be in any way an impediment for each of them to love God with all their hearts. And so they lived in prayer, and Saint Joseph would look to Mary for inspiration, for virtue, for greater love for God, and that's all it was. It was always both of them helping each other to love God and edifying each other, if you could say. I mean, how do you edify Mary more? But certainly she was an edification to him, and she was certainly his queen, and he knew that. There must have been some kind of infused that into Saint Joseph's mind, that she was the queen of angels, the queen of heaven and earth, the queen, especially after he knew that she was the mother of God. So he always looked to serve her, and she always looked to serve him. So there was that noble rival, you could say, that rivalry to serve each other in humility, in obedience, and love, and service to God. So what a admirable marriage, and couldn't every marriage look to that as inspirations? Help each other to love God more, to serve God, help each other to get to heaven. Of course, they didn't have to do that because they were on their way. They were already totally, what's the word? Slips my mind, where they were both destined for heaven, so they weren't going to lose. They weren't going to lose heaven, but they were both helping each other to love God as much as they could. So every marriage can learn from that, that not to get absorbed in each other, but to lift them, to be absorbed in God and to be brought up in God, to love Him totally, and love each other in Him.